Memphis and Boston. You guys ready for the Uncle Drew show?
Yes, what you got for me, Drewy?
Kyrie Irving dropping dimes recently.
Ooh.
There's one to Marcus Smart.
The timely shooter. Don't look at his percentages. Just think when he makes them, boots. We know Marcus Smart, a timely shot maker.
Very timely.
Kyrie with 11 assists. Memphis fighting tough, but it's Boston on the break.
Ooh.
Yes, Jaylen Brown.
Wasn't it Diesel's dunk nominee, maybe?
Maybe in traffic, maybe.
Maybe. All right, might be. Okay.
Mike Conley knocking it down from outside. Memphis, they take a 1-point lead late in the second quarter. It's Justin Holiday with the three.
Holiday.
Second half, more Conley. 26 and 4 for him. He's just consistently good.
Yep.
Year in, year out, night in, night out.
He was so banged up last year, Booze. You forgot how good Mike Conley is.
Very underrated point guard.
Grizzlies shot 45% from three-point range. But we told you it was the Uncle Drew show. Best handles in the league.
Ooh.
Tough shot maker.
Yes, indeed.
Tie game and Kyrie again.
And one thing we know about Kyrie, Booze, he puts in the work, so that's why we're not surprised when he makes these tough shots. My goodness.
You know it's going when the jersey is untucked. Untucked jersey, Kyrie is a thing of beauty. 38 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists for one Kyrie Irving. That's the second time this week we see him with the big points, but more importantly, double-digit assists. Here he is with Danielle Trotter. So much happening with Kyrie Irving, but let's start with the assists. And the first thing I think of is when he had the press conference with LeBron James and he looked down at the stat sheet, was like 0 assists. And now we see Kyrie in a leadership role, double-digit assists twice this week.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing about Kyrie right now. He's getting his teammates involved. We all know he can score with the best of them. He's been that way his whole career. But to get his teammates involved, getting everybody 5, 6, 7 shots, easy buckets, wide open jump shots, on time, on target, that's a Kyrie. Especially for me, us as big men, we love point guards like to pass the ball. So for me personally, I like seeing Kyrie get his teammates involved.
Being aggressive, getting to the free throw line, I wish he'd, nitpick. He's 6 of 9 from the free throw line, being such a great shooter. But when you're aggressive like that, now the defense is on their heels. They're trying to figure out your next move. Now they're shifting. Now you're able to share the ball and get the ball to guys like Marcus Smart, where they're shooting a wide open three versus the contested three. That lets you know Kyrie's being in aggressive mode to create things for other people.
And also when you think of his comments this past week as far as, call LeBron and being in a leadership role, do you see him assisting as part of that leadership role, or is that looking into it too much?
Maybe looking into it too much. My take was that what he was trying to say, I wish he probably could have kept it in-house, and maybe it came out over the summer after the playoffs, and someone said, Kyrie, how'd your game change? Well, I went through a spurt throughout the season. I had to give Brown a call. Maybe that should have came out later. And I think the way it came out may have taken some people by surprise a little bit. But at the end of the day, he comes back with a game tonight being aggressive and showing some leadership, getting his teammates involved.
Yeah, I think the message was I needed to humble myself. Speaking of Kyrie's shoes, I think saying that I talked to LeBron was a little too much, like 3D said. But I think overall what he was trying to say was, I understand more now what I went through, what Bron went through, and I got to do a better job of being a leader in a different way. And I think that was more of a maturity thing.
3, when I think of those Orlando Magic teams that you were on, and it was you, Penny, Shaq, Nick Anderson, you guys were growing as a group together. How is that beneficial in the sense of not having someone who's a little bit older, but you guys are in that same age range?
Great question, Chris. I think for us, because Shaq and Penny's personalities were so opposite, it worked perfectly. And then I was the one being more vocal, and then Nick was doing his thing. And then we brought in Horace Grant. Then we brought in someone older, a veteran, a different voice that we kind of looked at and said, oh, wait a minute, he has 3 rings. Okay, let's listen to what he has to say. And then obviously we went on to go to the final. So leadership sometimes to me and for a lot of people comes in a lot of different ways. And I think for most superstars, they like to lead by example and kind of so. So when you look at this quote right here, to Boozle's point, we understood what Kyrie was trying to say. Because he remembered he was a knucklehead. We remember he would get mad when he'd be like, come on, Brian, give me the ball. Let me score some more.
The kid. That's the thing we remember.
That's what he's trying to say, and he's right. Game 7, he makes the biggest shot in Cleveland Cavalier history. As much as we love LeBron, he still has the biggest shot in Cleveland Cavalier history.
Right.
Yeah, so Kyrie Irving in a situation now where, look, the Boston Celtics, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals without him. So that's a dynamic in that locker room. And a play that we analyzed a few times here last week when he's at half court, Kyrie Irving raising his arms like, pass me the ball, and Jason Tatum gets the ball at the end of the game. Kyrie very vocal about that. When you're trying to hash out your differences on a team, is that stuff healthy, or is that not healthy to put it out publicly?
Yeah, you never want to put it out publicly. That's one of those situations in three. You take them aside, you go have dinner, you sit down, you watch the film, whatever, as a group, or you go enjoy your teammates and talk to them on a personal level, face to face. You never want to air that stuff out in the public eye.
You never want to do that because we've seen that play before where Al Horford sets the first screen, Tatum comes off, kind of throw the pump fake, and then Al comes sets the second screen for Kyrie. He's like, oh, you didn't set the screen. Now, Tatum makes that shot-winning game. We're not even having this conversation, right? Because that is an option. Like they said, they've seen him doing in practice in other games before. But Kyrie's competitive spirit kicked in as being the guy, the champion on the team. He wants the ball. I get it. It's figuring out a way as we grow up to come out with those information in a different way.
And it's just interesting because there's another team on a higher level, we'll say the Golden State Warriors was, Steph Curry or Kevin Durant. Who's going to take the big shot in the big one? Well, we know the answer to that in the finals. I wonder if Kevin Durant can hear us, because that's the face that he's making. Leave it. Look, he sees you too, 3D.
Paradise, baby.
Pacers were blown out by Philly last night. You saw that on TNT, but still sitting third in the Eastern Conference, 44 games into the season, thanks in large part to a healthy Victor Oladipo, who recently sat down with Roz Gold on Wood A.
Victor Oladipo is just a fantastic basketball player.
He had a breakout year last year for the Pacers, and he looks great here in the season already.
Oladipo to the rim.
Shake him up, Vic.
Here's Oladipo, 3 seconds.
Race up.
Oladipo to win.
Another one! Another one! Victor Oladipo, this is your city.
What have you found it takes to bear the responsibility of being the leader and the face of this franchise?
A lot goes into it, you know what I mean? And too much is given, much is required. And I've been hearing that for every day for the past year. It's been tough, man. You gotta know what to say and when to say it, but at the same time, you gotta listen. I think being a leader is something that you have to learn how to do. There are natural born leaders, but there's some aspects of leadership that are things that you have to continuously learn from the people you surround yourself with, from your teammates. For me, I'm learning that every day. I'm learning my teammates. I'm learning what they like, what they dislike, and just about their everyday life. And also with leadership comes sacrifice. Sacrifice for yourself, sacrificing your time, and doing whatever it takes to help your team win. And that's what I'm locked in and focused on.
You have a pretty balanced roster, a number of guys scoring in double digits. Does that balance kind of take the pressure off a little?
In general, yeah. I mean, it's hard to guard us. You can double me, but I'm throwing it to Domas, and Domas is throwing it to whoever else is open. Or I'm throwing it to Miles, and Miles is throwing it to whoever else is open, or they're shooting their shot. So we got a lot of depth, and we got a lot of good players who can make things happen. But I never had a lot of pressure on me to begin with. So whether they double me or not, I don't feel any pressure. I just got to go out there and play.
Has your team earned respect yet? What is the respect you feel your team deserves right now?
I mean, being with them every day, I believe we earn a lot of respect. We deserve a lot of respect, but I don't think guys give it to us, which is fine, you know. At the end of the day, everybody isn't going to respect you, no matter who you are, no matter what you do. Just focus on each other and continuing to get better. We know that we can play at a high level in this league. We know we can win at a high level in this league, and we just got to continue to keep proving it every day.
Mentioned the Pacers are third in the East right now, and as was discussed there, this is a deep basketball team. Victor Oladipo is obviously their best player. My question for you guys is this a better regular season team or playoff team? Because they don't necessarily have that superstar guy who scares you in a postseason scenario as good as Oladipo is.
I don't know if I agree with you about Oladipo. I think Oladipo is a guy that...
You think he's there?
I think he is a guy that in today's NBA, he's a problem in a playoff setting. And look, this is a league right now where you're either a super team or you're a team with quality depth and emerging stars that you're going to hope can carry you deeper into the postseason than they normally would. I think about Boston last year without Kyrie and Gordon Hayward. they relied on a similar formula, quality depth as opposed to one or two superstars carrying you. Denver has a team to me right now that's built exactly like that. So I'm not as concerned about the top end of the Pacers roster. I'm more concerned about is their quality depth what it needs to be for them to have a sustained playoff run.
So it's interesting. I think people lose sight of how good they were in the playoffs last year.
They were good,
They lost to Cleveland in 7 games. But I thought it was the toughest series Cleveland had until they made it to the finals, quite frankly.
Agreed.
The Pacers are a team, because they have to be better than the sum of their parts and they have to be on the same page, to some degree, they have to outwork you all the time. And over the course of an 82-game year, that's really difficult. I don't think they have the kind of margin for error to be a high 50s win team. I don't think they can be a 60-win team in terms of their margin for error and their star power. But in terms of their ability to lock in and prepare for a playoff opponent, the number of guys they have on their team, to your point about quality depth, who have basketball IQ, grit and toughness, and are willing to sacrifice for the greater good, is incredible. And their best player, Victor Oladipo, doesn't care anything at all about anything other than winning basketball games. And that puts you in really good stead come playoff time. I think Nate McMillan and his staff will do a great job preparing for series. I think they're a more dangerous postseason team than they are regular season.
Interesting. Yeah, they do have really good depth. I don't disagree with that at all. Trade deadline's coming up next month. Where should they be looking, if at all?
You know, it's interesting. I think the one thing for them, it's complicated with what they have. You don't have a lot of pieces there you can aggregate to go get another star-type player without sort of taking a step back in terms of how you really operate.
Yeah.
But they're a team that by design is going to overachieve. And that means all the pieces they have sort of have to fit together in lockstep. If I was going to bring in anything, and you could say this about any contender, I would want more veteran three-point shooting.
Yep.
Somebody who can actually make shots versus a good contest. But who doesn't want a 6'8" guy that can make threes?
Right.
Yeah, I think the same dilemma that the Pacers are going to have come trade deadline is one that's going to plague every other team around the league that's not the Warriors. And that is there one player out there that pushes us up to that very next level, whatever it is, if it's right,
do they think they're good enough to get to that next level?
Exactly. And with a free agent summer coming up, Matt, where there's so many different, scenarios they could play out, I would imagine we're going to see a lot of teams very apprehensive about doing anything crazy because they know what could potentially be coming down the line. When things go haywire in the summer and if one player moves somewhere and it kind of sets the whole world on its axis, then we got an opportunity to do some things that we don't want to jeopardize at the trade deadline.
Well, to that end, though, Indiana's really interesting because they're not a team that's going to sit there and think they are a max free agent destination.
No. Right.
And they only have $60 million on the books for next year. So Kevin Pritchard and Chad Buchanan have the ability to go into trade deadline right now, willing to potentially take some money into the future if it can be the right piece for them. And I'm going to throw out a name for you with no understanding of how they make the math work whatsoever.
Sure.
Marc Gasol, if he gets moved from Memphis, playing with that group of guys, playing with a big like Sabonis who knows how to play and can dribble, pass, and shoot, that would be a fascinating piece to put in there and to give Nate McMillan and see what he could do.
You talked about the Denver Nuggets zagging when everyone else is trying to zig. Indiana could definitely do that if Gasol's there with Turner or Sabonis on the floor with him. That would be
well,
really
and Turner can
scenario.
space off of Gasol and vice versa.
Absolutely.
They'd be able to be really elite defensively in the paint. Let's make it happen. I like it.
Sabonis is great off the ball. Gasol could.
And Indiana has already crashed the party in the Eastern Conference when we weren't expecting it. Nobody looked up and said, hey, there's going to be 5 teams in the East that you have to worry about in that top group, and Indiana's not the 5th team. Right now it's Boston. Right. So they gotta be very mindful of the fact that we talked about Golden State, and do you get worse before you get better with Boogie coming in? Well, if you make a move and you're one of these teams, does it set you back before it propels you forward?
Right.
And do you want to take that risk now when you're already in a really good position if you're Indiana?
If it propels you forward, because you never know. When
you don't know.
Roll the dice on these deals. Well, hopefully you have the day off Monday for the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, which we have helpfully already planned for you. Wasn't that nice of us? The pair of NBA TV
Somebody
games,
did it.
Thunder and Knicks, Magic and Hawks, and then it's a TNT triple header. Pels, Grizz, Rockets, Sixers, and the Warriors in LA to take on the Lakers. Game time throughout the day, really, here on NBA TV, and then TNT takes over inside the NBA when the night ends.